Well, hello guys and girls out there, wherever you are. Welcome to another totally random video. And in today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about cassettes. Yeah, I know there is already a lot of videos out there about cassettes, so why would you want to watch this video right now? The chances are good, if you are watching this video right now, that you have already watched videos like cassettes, everything you know is a lie, or cassettes, everything you need to know, or of course, cassettes, better than you don't remember. But there are still some informations that they didn't include in their videos. So if you haven't watched those videos by now, the links to those videos are down in the description. I would recommend that you go and watch those videos and then come back here, because a lot of stuff what I talk about builds on the stuff that they already talked about, and I don't want to do too many or too much explanation. Yeah, so without any further ado, let's get to it. So first, let's start by talking about blank cassettes. In those other videos, we have already learned that there are basically 4 different types of cassettes with 4 different types of tape. So we have type 1 ferro, type 2 chrome, type 3 ferrochrome, and type 4 metal. They forgot to mention that we have tapes that are single coated and some are double coated, kind of stuff like that. And when it comes to the type 2 chrome tapes, they also forgot to mention that there are actually different kinds of chrome tapes. So we have the normal standard chrome tapes, also known as pure chrome. Those are tapes that are made of 100% chromium dioxide. But then there is also the chrome plus or chrome extra tapes, and they are made of 85% chromium dioxide and 15% ferric oxide. And those tapes are a little bit more sensitive because they are made for high-speed duplication. So maybe that's not uninteresting. But even more interesting than the fact that there are different kinds of chrome tapes is the fact that there are actually different kinds of type 2 cassettes. Yeah, after watching all those other videos, you probably start to believe, okay, every type 2 cassette is a chrome tape of some sort. But that's not true, not at all. So, for example, let's take a look at this cassette right here. Okay, so from the first look, it looks like a normal cassette. Well, it is a normal cassette. And when we take a look at the holes right here on the top, we can see, it is a type 2 cassette. It also says type 2 right here on the cassette itself. But this still isn't a chrome tape. Well, if it's not chrome, what is it? If we look over here, it is a so-called Evelyn tape. There. Yeah, it's a so-called Evelyn tape. Now, what exactly is an Evelyn tape, you might ask? Well, let me just explain it to you. Okay, so the brief history goes like this. In the beginning, when type 2 cassettes were introduced, they were all chrome. But then TDK decided they want to do something different. So instead of using a chromium dioxide formula, they started using a cobalt iron oxide formula, and they called those tapes Evelyn. Well, those tapes have pretty much the same technical specs and the same bias as the chrome tapes, but they still sound slightly different. But yeah, I'm not an expert, so I don't know if you can actually say that one tape is better than the other. And I think when it comes to the sound, it's mostly personal preference, which sound you like better. But the crazy thing is, TDK wasn't the only company that did this. You probably think, well, we never heard of those Evelyn tapes before in any of those other videos, so they are probably not really that popular or extremely rare or something like this, but that's not the case. In fact, This is a super CDing whatever cassette, but there are also TDK SA cassettes. SA stands for Super Evelyn. Those were the most popular TDK Type 2 cassettes, and they were widely available. And TDK wasn't the only company that did this, because apparently one company after another started adapting that concept. I think instead of using a cobalt iron oxide formula, they started using a cobalt ferric oxide formula. But yeah, one company after another stopped producing chrome tapes and started producing the other kind of tapes. And I don't know exactly why. I assume that they were just cheaper to produce, because why would you switch to something that has the same technical specs as the other thing? Makes no sense. So Chrome was kind of slowly fading away. And the company that tried to hold on to Chrome tapes the longest was BASF, also known as the Chrome Kings. I mean, their Type 2 Chrome cassettes, they were sometimes of such a good quality that people started using those cassettes as reference tapes. You know, hey, this is what a Chrome tape is supposed to sound like. But in the end, even BASF stopped producing Chrome and switched to the cobalt ferric tapes. Why? Why would you do that? If you are a company that is known for producing high quality Chrome tapes, that is notorious for their Chrome tape. Is notorious the right word? I don't know. But a company that is well known for their high quality Chrome tapes, why would they stop producing Chrome tapes and switching to something else? Makes no sense. But yeah, that's the way it happened. And BASF, they were not even convinced of this new technology, or, well, it wasn't really like a customer's choice, because there was a time where BASF released Type 2 cassettes where it said Chrome on the cassette, but it wasn't a Chrome tape. It was already one of those cobalt ferric tapes. I think according to this internet blog, Tape TARDIS, I think the BASF Chrome Maxima cassettes might have been some of those fake Chrome cassettes. So yeah, it's pretty weird. They started using the word Chrome as some kind of a brand name that had nothing to do with the actual tape. So they tried to trick the customers into believing that they are purchasing a Chrome tape, when in actual fact they were purchasing a cobalt ferric tape. Pretty weird, pretty sneaky, and I don't know, just a little bit confusing, but I think it is also something that is historical interesting, if that's correct. It's interesting, and I don't know, in the end, when it comes to Type 2 cassettes, the Chrome tapes have been completely replaced with either cobalt ferric or cobalt iron tapes. And for some reason, nobody thinks that it's worth mentioning, but I think it's quite interesting. So, yeah, that's enough about blank cassettes. So now let's start talking about pre-recorded cassettes. Because just recently I learned something that I didn't know, so I assume there's other people out there who also might not know about this. So in those other videos, we have already learned not only about those different types of cassettes, but we have also learned about the Dolby noise reduction, and that there are 3 different versions: Dolby B, Dolby C, and Dolby S. And if you record your cassette in either one of these versions, you also have to play it back with the same version. So if I record a cassette with Dolby C, I also have to play it back with Dolby C for it in order to sound right. And something that I didn't know is the fact that Dolby B was introduced somewhere in, I believe, 1970 or something like that. And ever since that time, or I think since 1972, pretty much every pre-recorded cassette that has been released was recorded in Dolby B. So in fact, every pre-recorded cassette that has this little Dolby logo on it is recorded in Dolby B and therefore should also be played back in Dolby B. This is something that completely blew my mind, because I always thought that this Dolby logo just means that it's recorded in some kind of Dolby stereo. I didn't know that it had something to do with noise reduction, and it also means that I have never been listening to my childhood cassettes the way I was supposed to listen to them, because we never had a cassette player capable of Dolby noise reduction. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. And another weird thing is, many people don't like playing those cassettes with Dolby B, even if that's the correct way you're supposed to play those cassettes. Many people say, well, it just sounds terrible, it sounds completely muffled, it just sounds completely wrong. I don't know exactly why that is. I assume that it's because Dolby B is like the oldest version, and of course it still has its flaws, and you cannot compare it with something like Dolby S. And some people even go so far that they say, okay, I like recording my cassettes with Dolby B, but I prefer listening to them without Dolby B, because then the highs are more defined and it just sounds more pleasing to the ear. So yeah, if that's the way you like to listen to your cassettes, well, fine by me, but it's not the correct way. Yeah, so you probably wonder, hey, if that Dolby logo really indicates that the cassette is recorded in Dolby B, why are there pre-recorded cassettes where it specifically says B and R underneath that Dolby logo? If the logo itself is already an indicator for Dolby B, why would they have to say it on those cassettes? Maybe the Dolby logo doesn't mean that it's recorded in Dolby B. Wrong. The Dolby logo definitely means that it's recorded in Dolby B. But in the beginning, there was only Dolby B. So you didn't have to tell the people that it's Dolby B, because that's the only thing that existed. But then later on, Dolby C and Dolby S were introduced, and eventually they also started releasing cassettes, pre-recorded cassettes, that were recorded in Dolby C and also Dolby S. Yes, they still might be extremely rare, but they did exist. So now you had to tell the customer specifically which one of those 3 Dolby versions has been used. And that's why we also have cassettes where it specifically says B and R underneath that Dolby logo. Yeah, so I think that's enough for now. I hope you liked that video. I hope it was a little bit interesting and a little bit informative, and that you learned something new. And yeah, that's it right now. And I see you in the next totally random video. Bye.